Imagine you walk into a room full of strangers, and they are fiercely debating a highly controversial political topic. Do you instinctively scan the room, read the subtle social cues, and advocate for an opinion you don't actually hold just to keep the peace? Or do you state your precise, unfiltered beliefs, completely indifferent to the collective discomfort of the audience? How you answer that micro-scenario places you on a psychological axis defined by researcher Mark Snyder. On one end, you have high self-monitors, highly adaptable social chameleons. On the opposite extreme, you have low self-monitors, rigidly consistent anchors. The difference lies in how you process the social world. High monitors scan for behavioral cues and construct a socially appropriate persona on the fly. Low monitors largely ignore external cues, relying on internal attitudes to guide their actions regardless of the environment. This behavioral baseline shapes their friendships, navigate their careers, and manage their romantic lives. Because high self-monitors prioritize external presentation and look for social utility, they tend to perceive a much broader field of alternative romantic partners. Longitudinal data suggests their exclusive dating relationships last exactly half as long as the rest of the population. Low self-monitors face a different hurdle. Their insistence on consistency can lead to organizational isolation in the workplace. By refusing to project the expected corporate persona, they are frequently passed over for promotions in favor of more adaptable colleagues. For the extreme chameleon, the effort required to continuously read the room and suppress genuine emotion creates an increasing internal friction. Over time, the energy needed to sustain these various personas becomes more difficult to maintain. Existing at either end of the spectrum creates a distinct set of risks. The anchor faces professional stagnation through a lack of flexibility, while the chameleon risks the stability of their personal identity. Psychometric researchers classify this continuous adaptation as strategic masking. To survive social friction, an individual suppresses their true emotional state and learns to simulate false ones that align with what the room demands. Later researchers like Richard Lennox and Raymond Wolf distilled this behavior down to two core variables: how sensitive you are to the expressive behavior of others and your capacity to modify your own presentation in response. You can actually track these abilities across a lifespan. Young adults score the highest in self-monitoring. Driven by weakly formulated self-concepts and an acute need for peer approval, late adolescents are highly motivated to adjust their behavior to fit in. But as people age, that trend reverses. Older adults demonstrate a much lower self-monitoring profile. They rely on deeply crystallized internal values to guide their behavior, rather than looking to the room for permission to speak. This indicates that self-monitoring is not a static trait. It is a fluid developmental stage that shifts as your internal certainty grows. National cultures dictate monitoring strategies. In the US, individualism demands acquisitive masking and strategic self-promotion. In the UK, a culture of understatement requires protective masking to avoid appearing arrogant. In Australia, extreme egalitarianism enforces defensive masking, forcing citizens to hide success with self-deprecation. These varying levels of expressive control suggest that individual behavior is often a calibrated response to the specific pressures of a national culture. This constant masking creates specific social architectures. High monitors tend to maintain highly segmented social circles. They keep separate groups of specialist friends, a tennis partner, a business connection, to avoid exposing the inconsistencies between their various personas. In the workplace, this creates the subordinate evaluation gap. High monitors excel at projecting competence upward, convincing superiors they are the perfect prototype for leadership. But direct subordinates who watch these shifting behaviors every day often perceive this adaptability as political calculation and insincerity. Maintaining this split existence requires a continuous effort known as emotional labor. According to the Maslach Burnout Inventory, this leads to a predictable psychological collapse, emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and a profound sense of reduced personal accomplishment. It is a tragic irony. The exact cognitive agility required to climb corporate hierarchies is the same mechanism that can eventually deplete the individual's mental health. To bridge this gap, researcher Herminia Ibarra developed the concept of adaptive authenticity. She argues that a rigid definition of a true self is actually a barrier to growth, preventing us from experimenting with new roles. One strategy is selective collage. Instead of imitating a single persona, you borrow specific micro-behaviors, like a particular negotiation tactic or a method of giving feedback, from a diverse range of role models. Another strategy is setting learning goals. By shifting your focus from social approval to the mastery of a new skill, like delivering a pitch without a script, you prioritize personal growth over external performance. Finally, narrative recrafting involves actively updating the stories you tell about yourself. This allows you to discard outdated self-definitions that no longer serve your professional or personal evolution. Minor behavioral adjustments are not acts of self-betrayal. They are tools of empathy. By learning to adapt, you gain the ability to translate your core values into actual impact in the real world. Balancing social adaptability with the drive for authenticity is the core challenge of the self-monitoring spectrum. To see exactly where your own tendencies fall, you can find Mark Snyder's original 1974 psychometric test in the description. For more deep dives into the systems that shape our behavior, subscribe for the next chapter.